Hey everyone, it's Barb Teckle. So we have another animal wisdom reading for the week of January 4th. Happy New Year, by the way. Today I wanted to share with you a quote, and it really resonated for me. I love quotes. I have a couple different journals full of quotes. There's just something about them that I love how they make me think, and I love actually the process of writing them out in my journal. So this is one of my journals I have that I collect quotes in. So I'm going to read this quote, and then I thought of a question to ask for the week, and then to turn to animal wisdom to see what guidance we can have around that question, which I feel is really relevant as we move into 2021. Well, we're into 2021, slowly moving into it. And you'll be able to go ahead and pick card 1, 2, or 3. I'm going to pull 3 cards. I've already pulled them. I have them sitting in front of me. And either card 1, 2, or 3 will be your personal message around this question we're going to work with. And then we'll look at the reading overall as well. So this is the quote, and it's by John Cage. And it says, "Our intention is to affirm this life, not to bring order out of chaos, nor to suggest improvements in creation, but simply to wake to the very life we're living, which is so excellent once one gets one's mind and desires out of its way and lets it act of its own accord." So what jumped out at me here for a question is how to wake to the very life we're living, how to wake to the very life we're living. And I really liked how the quote started out by saying, our intention is to affirm this life. Because I think so often, which is human nature, especially when things don't feel normal or they don't feel like we're in control, we tend to go to the negative side of things. So even though 2020 was rocky, we're still moving into just because January 1st happened doesn't mean everything's done. We've still got work to do. And I just really liked our intention is to affirm this life. So that's partly how I'm going to work with the reading, is how we affirm this life, but how do we wake to the very life that we're living? How do we awake right now in this moment to the very life that we're living, right? Instead of projecting out there or projecting back there, meaning the future or the past. So I worked with the deck, the Spirit Animal Oracle, which you can see behind me here by Colette Baron-Reid. And so again, you can pick card 1, 2, or 3. I hope you have that number in your head. So the first card is Mouse Spirit. And it says, tend to the small things. So how do we wake to the very life we're living? Tend to the small things. And I love this card to start out with this question, because right away I see this card as tending to our own inner being, tending to what's right in front of us, tending to the things that matter. And that's really coming up for me, and perhaps this resonates with you too, is I think about the whole week between Christmas and New Year's. And I don't know how your holidays were. Mine were very quiet, and they were different than they were in the past. But, I just tended to my own home and my own relationship with my husband, John. And, we both yesterday just said, we got so much done in our home, and all these little tasks were things that we really enjoyed. And I just feel just refreshed. And I just love how my home is all neat and tidy. And when my home is neat and tidy, that makes me feel, more neat and tidy within as well. It brings me a lot of peace. So how do we wake to the very life we're living? So Mouse is saying to tend to the little things that really aren't little, they're big things that have a big impact on our overall life. So that's the first card. So the next card I actually pulled in reverse, upside down, which is protection in this deck. That's what it's called. And this is just an extra nudge to pay attention, an extra big hug from Spirit, saying, I really want you to get this message. So how do we wake to the very life we're living? And this is Eagle Spirit, and Spirit has your back. And I believe I pulled Eagle last week in the reading as well. Though this week I pulled it in protection. I don't remember how I pulled it last week. But anyways, how do we wake to the very life we're living, and Eagle Spirit being in protection? I feel like this is really speaking to when we lose sight of what matters, or we lose sight of the bigger perception or the different perceptions of life, that because eagle can just zoom, its eyesight is amazing, and it can just zoom down to that very critter it wants to catch for its next meal. So it's very much in the present moment and has to really narrow in on what's important. Again, it's almost like mouse spirit as well, tending this to the small things. So I'm going to read the question again. How do we wake to the very life we're living? So if you pick card number 2, I'm feeling like it's the same thing from last week. I'm remembering when I did the reading, it was about perception. And maybe perhaps, looking at things in a different way than we normally would, that is going to help us to awake to this new way of looking at life. And we've definitely been tested with all of that, right? We've had to do things differently. We've had to think differently. We've had to move differently. And that's opening our perception to how maybe we've looked at it in the past. So that's card number 2. So then if you pick card number 3, this one was also in protection, but I'll show it to you upright, which is Elephant Spirit. Elephant has been coming up a lot in different readings that I've done for myself, different readings of readers that I listen to. And on this card, it says, learn from the past. So how do we wake to the very life we're living? I love the message on here because this is so appropriate. Learn from the past. So the fact it was in protection, I feel partly this is not getting stuck in the past. If we're going to wake to the very life we're living at this moment, we can't be living back here. We can take what we learned from the past, and we can change that pattern if it doesn't feel right. Now I just got to think about this for a moment. I just all of a sudden it's going bloop out of my mind. Learn from the past. Yeah, I guess I'm going to stick with how do we wake to the very life we're living is not getting stuck in the past. I'm going to just say this as, looking at 2020, we have to take what we learned in 2020, not as a negative, but what's the positive of that, and not get stuck in it, but take all the teachings of that and bring it into now, into this very moment as we move forward and we live in the present moment of today and then moving through this year. That's what I wanted to say. All right, so that is the reading for the week. And I just wanted to say, if you enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up or hit the subscribe button. If you give it a thumbs up, that lets more people are going to learn more about the readings, and hopefully that will help them. And the beginning of the year is a great time to have a reading to help you, start out the year great and look at what perhaps it is you want to work on and setting an intention. So having a reading is a great way to do that. So feel free to contact me. I'd love to do a reading for you. And you can find out more about my readings on my website at joyfulpause, P-A-W-S, joyfulpause.com. All right, everyone, have a great week. I'll see you again next week. Bye-bye.